Hello, you're on the Ruslan Belov channel, and today we're going to discuss the situation in Ukraine as of May 20th, 2025. A huge number of events have taken place today, so let's get started. We begin at the line of contact, starting with the Zaporizhzhia direction, where the intensity of activity constantly fluctuates. And now, these days, we are witnessing another surge in activity. Russian aviation is active, Russian drones are operating, full control has been established over the southern part of the settlement of Orikhiv, airstrikes are being carried out, and gradually the Russian side is pushing through lines in preparation for potential attacks and offensive operations expected in the near future. However, speaking specifically about May 20th, no ground activity has been observed. We'll continue to monitor the situation. Next, we move to the South Donetsk direction, starting with the settlements of Zelenopol and Novopil. As a reminder, according to various cartographers and analysts, in recent days, the Russian side has repeatedly attempted to storm both settlements. Just yesterday, several cartographers, mainly pro-Russian, made small map updates suggesting that Russian units entered both settlements, from the south into Novopil and also from the south into Zelenopol. Today, this information is also being confirmed by pro-Ukrainian mapping services. However, the way they depict the map is rather interesting. If we look at a map published by a pro-Ukrainian source, we can observe a kind of pocket east of the Novopil-Zelenopol line, more specifically, near Zelenopol. According to these Ukrainian mapping services, a portion of Ukrainian forces has become encircled and is currently trapped among forest strips in that area. It's difficult to say exactly how many Ukrainian troops are surrounded, but it appears to be several dozen, possibly up to 100. In any case, the key point is that even pro-Ukrainian map makers confirm that as a result of an attack from south to north, Russian units managed to enter both the northeastern part of Novopil and the southeastern part of Zelenopol. At this moment, clashes continue and a direct engagement is underway. Now we head to the Bohatyr-Kamarske direction. In fact, it may no longer be accurate to refer to this front as the Bohatyr direction, since the settlement of Bohatyr came under Russian control a few days ago. Now, this axis is more appropriately called the Kamarsky direction, named after the settlement located at the junction of key logistical routes. Russian forces are currently advancing along this direction. According to certain pro-Russian analysts, Russian forces have advanced along the eastern bank of the Mokry Yali River, and it seems they managed to flank the settlement of Fedorivka, potentially preparing to strike it soon. Additionally, Russian forces have established full fire control over the settlement of Otradna. Despite being a small settlement and essentially already wiped off the map, Russian troops are in no hurry to storm it. Instead, they are systematically destroying Ukrainian equipment and disrupting evacuation and rotation efforts. Still, despite the lack of ground actions at the moment, it's clear that an assault on Otradny is likely imminent. Meanwhile, there is growing activity near the settlement of Alexeyevka. After the Russian army cleared out Bohatyr, Russian artillery and FPV drones shifted their attention to Alexeyevka, and an active phase is now underway to eliminate Ukrainian strongholds and temporary FPV operator positions in the area. In the coming days, Russia may also attempt an offensive along this part of the front. Next, we move to the Kleban beak direction. Nothing significant has occurred in Pokrovsk over the past 24 hours. However, in the Kleban beak breakthrough area, the situation for Ukrainian forces continues to deteriorate. Let's go in order, starting with the southwestern flank of the Kleban beak breakthrough. Today, neutral and pro-Ukrainian cartographers are reporting the clearing of the settlement of Yelizavetivka. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, this settlement came under Russian control a few weeks ago, but only now are neutral and pro-Ukrainian cartographers updating their maps accordingly. Whether the settlement changed hands 2 or 3 weeks ago isn't the main issue. What matters is that we are now observing continued Russian efforts to push forward toward a dense network of Ukrainian strongholds located between Yelizavetivka and the western outskirts of the settlement of Myrna. It appears that the Russian side will now focus on clearing out these strongholds in order to straighten the front line and secure more stable positions on the southeastern flank of the Pokrovsk agglomeration. In the northwestern direction, the Russian side has indeed managed to break through the defenses of the armed forces of Ukraine and reduce the distance to the settlement of Popov Yar. This information was confirmed today by both neutral and pro-Ukrainian mapping sources. This is truly a major offensive in this sector of the front. Let me remind you that over the past several days, we've been consistently updating the maps here in favor of the Russian Federation. There have also been reports about the clearing of the settlement of Novoalenovka. Some cartographers have already marked Novopoltavka as taken. However, as of May 20th, we still have not received any confirmations or reports that Novopoltavka has indeed come under Russian control. I'll also remind you that some pro-Russian cartographers have marked Russian advances toward Poltavka itself from the southeast, again without any confirmation so far. From key geolocations, we can see that Russian drones are now flying over Popov Yar, which also indicates that this area is being actively monitored. A large number of drones and FPV drone operators are engaged here, suggesting that this direction will remain a priority until the settlements of Popov Yar, Poltavka, and Rusinyan fall under Russian control. It seems Russian forces will focus their attention here for several more days. A bit further northwest, near the settlement of Shakov, a bridge was damaged in a strike. This is a crucial logistical artery that connects the settlements of the Pokrovsk agglomeration with Druzhkivka. This vital artery was damaged today. From the photos, we can see that the bridge was not destroyed. But if we recall the situation in the Kherson area and the Antonovsky Bridge, a few more strikes like this and the Ukrainian side may lose the ability to use this logistical route. Of course, a large number of pontoon crossings will be quickly established, but overall, the intent and goals of the Russian army here are quite clear. We've also repeatedly discussed this logistical hub. Let's once again take a look at the map for better clarity. This is one of the most important logistical arteries connecting the Sloviansk-Kramatorsk, Kostiantynivka agglomeration with the Pokrovsk agglomeration. This road runs from Druzhkivka toward Pokrovsk, and we can see that on this road, the Russian army damaged a bridge near Shakov. Of course, this alone isn't enough to collapse the logistics entirely, but it's clear that actions are being taken in this direction. Also, for several days now, we've noted that another route has come under drone attacks. This is the road from Pokrovsk through Dobropilia and further toward Kramatorsk. Russian drones have been repeatedly spotted in this area, effectively monitoring this road. If we increase the number of updates since the beginning of the month, we can see how tightly Russian drones and aviation are working over these supply routes. This is exactly where the main Ukrainian reserves are concentrated, or rather, reserves that can be rapidly moved from one agglomeration to another. Control over this section of the front largely determines the success of Russia's offensive toward all these key urban areas. As for today, new footage of objective control has been published, showing what appears to be a military vehicle driving along the road between Petrovka and Kramatorsk, with smoke in the background, likely from a hit on a Ukrainian convoy. Possibly a bus or truck was struck by a Russian FPV drone, capable of reaching up to 30 kilometers deep into Ukrainian positions. So we're clearly seeing an intensification of strikes here. Again, the outcome of battles for Kostiantynivka, Pokrovsk, and the Sloviansk-Kramatorsk agglomeration will partially depend on the level of control over these roads. These are extremely important elements, and from the available footage, it appears the Ukrainian side was not prepared for this development. Next, we move directly to the Kleban beak pocket. Today, just like in recent days, Russian forces are actively attacking the western flank. According to some cartographers, Russian troops have secured control over several forest belts in the direction of Yablonevka. Let's look at how the map has changed in this area. As of May 19, 2025, we observed the front line between Novoalenovka and Alexandropol, as well as a pocket southwest of Hanativka. By the end of May 20th, Russian forces had improved their positions along these forest strips, and a large grey zone had been added between Hanativka, Kalinova, and Zeleno Pole. As for this pocket, this grey zone, today both pro-Russian and pro-Ukrainian cartographers made adjustments. Especially interesting is the map published today by pro-Ukrainian sources. Vast areas have been marked as grey zones. This doesn't necessarily indicate that Russian forces have fully entered this area, though likely reconnaissance and sabotage groups are present, and some assault operations may be underway. But the main takeaway from the extensive grey markings by Ukrainian cartographers is that the Ukrainian side has started evacuating this pocket. Apparently, the complete encirclement of the southern part of the Kleban beak pocket is now just a few days, or even hours, away. Over the next few days, we will likely continue to see updates to the map in this area until the front line is fully straightened along the settlements of Alexandropol, Zaria, and Romanivka. The situation is already critical for the Ukrainian forces. It's now a matter of minutes. Supporting this assessment are many pieces of objective control footage showing Russian drone strikes on Ukrainian equipment being withdrawn from south to north. Ukrainian units are trying to evacuate whatever they can, but it's clear that not everything will make it out. Next, we move to the Civki Donets Donbass canal. The offensive toward northern Dylievka continues. According to some cartographers, Russian units have improved their positions along the canal and captured several strongholds near the settlement of Zaryanivka. The advance continues here. Around Dylievka, a large number of defensive positions have been dug in, so rapid progress by Russian forces is unlikely in this area. Now we move on to the Chassiva sector. Again today, there are no updates from the Shevchenko micro-district or the central part of Chassiva. Despite the fact that some cartographers have already marked these areas as taken, we have not yet received any objective control footage. Apparently, Russian advances here are progressing very slowly. On the other hand, according to available footage, Russian troops have improved their positions along the canal north of Chassiva. Let me remind you that throughout April and May, a large number of geolocations were recorded in this area, and it appears the Russian side has launched an operation to straighten the front line and improve positions north of Chassiva in order to eventually gain control of settlements such as Mayske, Markove, and Novomarkov. For now, it appears that this operation is still in its early stages. However, in the coming days, we may see an increase in the intensity of Russian offensive actions. Next, we move to the Civay sector of the front. There have been minor adjustments around the settlement of Verkhnyokamyansk. Today, Ukrainian sources published this footage showing artillery strikes on Russian army positions north of Verkhnyokamyansk. Based on this footage, the entire forest belt has been marked as under Russian control. In other words, the Russian army continues to encircle and bypass Verkhnyokamyansk from the north in an attempt to approach the settlement from the northwest. There are also reports that Russian forces managed to fully clear the farm areas located in the central part of the village. So far, this information has only been published by neutral cartographers without direct confirmation. In any case, it is becoming evident that the battle for Verkhnyokamyansk is nearing its end, as most of the Ukrainian strongpoints have already come under Russian control. We're not talking about hours or even a few days, but it's very likely that within a week or two, the settlement will be fully under Russian control. The Russian army would then reach the very western outskirts and, effectively, a direct line of approach to the town of Civsk, more precisely, to the Civsk citadel located in its eastern part. This area includes elevated urban terrain. We now move to the Lyman sector of the front. Here, for the past 24 hours, there has been no noticeable activity from Russian forces. It appears that a regrouping is underway before the next phase of the advance. However, over the last few days, combat activity near the settlement of Zaporizhzhia has intensified. Every day, we receive 3 to 4 new videos from this area. In each case, either a Ukrainian position or an FPV drone operator's location is destroyed by a LMUR missile, or a FAB bomb strike hits the area. This suggests that the Russian army is actively preparing the battlefield for an assault, possibly a ground offensive that could begin in the next few days. In the northern Kupiansk sector, the situation remains unchanged. Hostilities continue, but there is no major offensive activity, only drone and artillery strikes. Next, we move further north, where we have some updates and a lot of interesting developments. According to various cartographers and Russian military sources, within the past 24 hours, Russian forces have fully re-established control over the state border south of the settlement of Marina. That means the areas west of Prylesia are now under the full control of Russian forces. Previously, there were reports that Ukrainian units were planning an assault on Prylesia and had moved into nearby forest belts. However, these attacks failed to develop into anything significant. Today, we are receiving reports that Russian units are massing for a potential offensive toward the settlement of Turia, which is already located within Sumy Oblast. Just slightly further north, we have important updates from the area around Lochnia. Based on objective control footage released in the past 24 hours, it can be concluded that the village of Lochnia has come fully under Russian control. Fighting for this settlement began back in March 2025, following the conclusion of the Sudzha defensive operation. The battles for Lochnia were fierce and prolonged. Ukrainian forces tried to hold the village as long as possible. However, current footage shows that forward Russian positions are not only established on the very southern outskirts of Lochnia, but even appear to have moved into the northern part of Unakivka. In fact, there's virtually no clear boundary now between Unakivka and Lochnia, and we can confidently say that as of May 20th, 2025, the assault on Unakivka has officially begun. This is a key logistical hub for Ukrainian defense and also a strategically vital location for establishing a security zone, a concept repeatedly emphasized by Russian President Vladimir Putin. The complete clearing of Lochnia has also been confirmed today by several reliable pro-Russian military analysts. And that's all for today, dear friends. Thank you for watching this report. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned.